Tonight we are going to multiply and divide mixed numbers. Now we've already multiplied and divided fractions, so not a whole lot of differences here. So I should be able to get through this lesson in a pretty timely fashion, and hopefully you'll see that there's not much difference. Let's start off with an area problem. What is the area of a rectangle 3.5 inches long, 1 3/4 inches wide? Well, one formula for area of a rectangle is length times width. We've used base times height a lot, but basically it's one dimension times the other dimension. So in this case, we'll go length times width. The length is 3.5 inches. The width is 1 3/4 inches. And the first thing we got to do when we're multiplying mixed numbers is actually turn the mixed numbers into improper fractions. 3.5 is 7/2. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 is 7, 7/2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus the 3 is 7, so 7/4. Then we can go ahead and multiply. 49/8. 7 times 7 is 49, 2 times 4 is 8, and we'll present our answer as a mixed number because one, when we're talking about area, it just makes sense to use mixed numbers, and number two, the problem started with mixed numbers, so we should give our answer as a mixed number. 8 goes into 49 6 times. That would be 48, so we have 1 left over. So 6 1/8 square inches, or inches squared. A recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of milk. How many cups of milk are needed if the recipe is doubled? Well, I guess the first thing you need to know is that doubled means that you're going to take the recipe and multiply it by 2. 1 3/4 is 7/4. So we're going to actually multiply 7/4 by 2. And then remember from the previous lesson, we're going to simplify before we multiply. Don't multiply yet. Let's simplify. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now we can multiply. 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 1 is 2. Or just, you see your answer right there, 7/2. 7/2. Which can be made into a mixed number, 3.5. So 3.5 cups of milk are needed if this recipe is doubled. Tile setter is covering a 5 foot by 5 foot square shower wall. Each tile covers a 4 5/8 inch by 4 5/8 inch square. How many rows of tile are needed to reach 5 feet? And then we'll also figure out how many tiles are needed to cover the 5 foot by 5 foot square. But first of all, how many tiles do we need to stretch across 5 feet? Well, first of all, since the tiles are in inches, let's convert the square that we're covering into inches. And then we're going to divide that 60 inches by 4 5/8 to find out how many rows of tiles we need. Okay. Well, just like with multiplication, division, we can't do mixed numbers. We're going to turn that into an improper fraction. 8 times 4 is 32, plus the 5 is 37, so 37/8. And then just like we did in the previous lesson, instead of dividing by a number, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. Okay, so since it comes out to more than 12 tiles needed to stretch across that 60 inches or 5 feet, we're going to need that 13th tile. Even if this was 12 and 1/37th, we'd still need the 13th tile. Otherwise, it wouldn't cover all the way across. So 13 rows of tile. And then because it's a square that we need to cover, 13 rows of 13 tiles is going to be 169 tiles that we need. That'll actually cover more than the 5 by 5 square, but better too much than not enough. Write the multiplicative inverse, also known as the reciprocal, of each number. Okay, well, with mixed numbers, the first thing you got to do is change it into an improper fraction. And then we should remember from that lesson we did before that multiplicative inverse is just a matter of flipping this fraction upside down. You get 3/8. So E, really, we've already learned this. The reciprocal of 5/6 is 6/5. And I believe this something, a whole number was in the previous lesson too. The reciprocal of 5 is 1/5, because 5 is like 5 over 1, so flip it upside down, 1/5. So really D is the main new thing here. You wouldn't just tell me the reciprocal is 2 3/2. That would be very incorrect. All right, so let's finish up with some multiplication here and some division on the next slide. To multiply these fractions, we have to turn them into improper fractions. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, 3/2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5, so 5/3. Simplify if you can. Simplify before you multiply. 3's are gone. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we get 5/2, and we'll turn that into a mixed number, 2.5. All right, 2.5 times 2.5. 2.5 is 5/2. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. No simplifying you can do here, so 25/4. 4 goes into 25 6 times with 1 remaining. So 2.5 times 2.5, or 2.5 times, is 6 1/4. And lastly, some division. 1.5 divided by 2 2/3. The first thing you got to do is change these into improper fractions. And then instead of dividing by 8/3, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal, 3/8. Numerator times numerator, 9. Denominator times denominator, 16. It's already simplified because there was nothing I could simplify over here. J, same thing. We got to turn these into improper fractions. We've already done that up here. 2 2/3 is 8/3. 1.5 is 3/2. Instead of dividing by 3/2, we'll multiply by its reciprocal, 2/3. No simplifying occurs here. We get 16/9, and then we'll turn that into a mixed number. 9 goes into 16 once with 7 remaining. All right, that's all I've got for you in this lesson. I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.